All right, we're good? We're live. Okay, it's 10:45, and I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. We're having our budget session, and just for the public's knowledge, we are here to hear from our department heads today. We're not going to take any questions. If you have questions regarding the budget, I would suggest that you save them and go to the Budget Committee meetings. So, but thank you all for coming. Okay. Bob, you're the first person on the agenda with Public Works, Highway Buildings. Is that what we're doing first? Government Buildings.
So, Bob, don't have many questions for you, but electricity seems to continue to be going up across the buildings. Remind me where we stand in terms of the benefits of the solar program and solar system and so on, and what it's giving us, if you can.
The benefits to the electricity end of it, you mean?
Yes, supposedly eventually we're going to zero cost, right?
I believe,
Continue to be going up rather dramatically after otherwise.
I can't speak for Lynn, but I know there's something big happening with that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the project that we have, the solar panels, the idea is that during the contract period, we should be paying the same amount for electricity. And then once we purchase the solar panels, that's when the town will realize the benefits of the energy generated from it. Now, there have been some misappropriation of the bills, I think. There were some changes in the bills, so some bills were posted to the wrong accounts. And when Lynn gets back, she can speak to that issue.
But overall, we're up almost $10,000 across 9 different
Right.
sites. But the answer is until we actually buy it.
Right, and there was
we'll continue to have whatever increases come from
right, and there was
combination of use and the.
And there was another issue
Provide.
where the Energy Committee changed the name of an account, changing it from, I don't know, Lynn can speak to this, changed the name of the account so it came off of our contracted. We have a contract where we purchase electricity, and so it
Right.
came out of that. So we're taking steps now to try and get it back in there. It should have been in there. We should have gotten the contracted price, and we didn't. So that's what we're working on, getting that.
I only raised it this morning because it is one of those items that's going up, and
Right.
I think I know the answer, but I
Right,
want
and
to
I think the
make sure.
result is because some of the accounts came off of our contracted price.
I wanted to do that too.
Yeah, Bob
Sure
doesn't
that-
have as much input into that.
Right, that we just understand that, and it's more or less status quo until we make the decision to buy it.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's all I have on the buildings.
BB, do you have any questions for Bob?
No. Well, be patient with me since this is my first
No.
time
Yeah. Okay.
doing this. And can you, actually, let me ask you a quick question. If you can give me a 2-minute rundown on your process, the way you guys usually do this with the department heads. You're not going line by line, you're just asking general questions.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. And in the past, we have waited to approve whether their budget or we do it all at once, all the budgets. So it's sort of, we don't have a firm way of doing it. But
Okay.
right now, what we do is, if you have questions specifically about
Sure.
any of the line items, then
Yeah.
ask them now.
Okay, I have one question that I want to ask about each department head's overall budget, but we can save it to the end of each of their
Okay.
sections.
All right, good.
Do we want to talk about the software for government buildings now? I mean, I think I heard last night that you're in favor of,
Thing that Phil was talking about?
yes.
Yeah,
So that would be government buildings, might be
Yep.
appropriate to talk about it here.
yep.
Which line item is that?
It's not, Bob put it in his capital
Right.
at the end.
Oh, okay.
But it's something that could be put into the operating budget if that's what you want, or you can wait and talk about it under capital.
I'd rather wait and talk about it under capital.
Okay.
We just want to make sure, because I think last night you were in favor of it generally for this coming budget. Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Cemetery?
cemeteries.
So here, my question is a general one for three of us. It's a small amount, but we've got a six-figure cemetery maintenance capital reserve fund that's not been used for years. Is it time to start using that? It's, the stated purpose of it is general cemetery maintenance. And so I'm wondering if we could take this $4,600 and start, put it in, take it out of the capital reserve instead. It's a very small amount, but as the conversation's gone on, you know, this is one of those funds that we haven't used at all, and the only time we can use it is in March because we don't have the power to expend.
So is this an item that we could have used to have the fences painted,
Yes.
but we didn't? Because that wasn't enough, or, well, it wasn't enough, I know that, but,
Well, this 4,600, I assume you use every year.
Yes.
So is there kind of a maintenance plan in place for the cemetery? So do you have in your head the next time Old Main Street needs to be painted again? And I drove around to the other cemeteries to see if they have fences that need to be painted, and they don't. But oh, there is? Okay. Yeah,
A lot of this maintenance is actually for mowing
yeah,
and general upkeep if you have stones you put over.
yeah,
Mowing work that needs to be done,
yeah.
top dressing, get grass you can grow. It might be pressure washing the fence. There's a section of fence up there.
Right.
So, you know, all of, BB, maybe you can help here, all of what you've told us the school department does. I mean, if we set a target of keeping this fund at $100,000,
Yeah.
could we spend the next $21,000 until it gets down there? Meanwhile, we're adding interest to it and just,
Yeah.
because this is one of two or three funds that I know in talking with budget committee members that they've been concerned about, where we have what they call dead money, which in the cemetery is not supposed to be a joke.
Well, in that total amount of 200 and something thousand, how much of that?
120,644.30.
I'm getting input from the back of the room. If we could put our mics a little closer to us, I think it,
How's that?
Hello?
Hello?
Bob, can you speak into yours?
You hear mine?
Could you all come
Yeah.
sit in the front row?
We can hear you, but apparently last night when we watched it, we didn't get most of what the police consultant said.
Oh,
So Bob, if you can put yours, you know, kind of like I'm doing here, I know it's kind of inconvenient, but,
I didn't have it on, Adam turned it on. So
okay.
can you hear
Yeah,
it now?
but just kind of lean into it a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
How much of that 100 and whatever thousand is the part that is the individual accounts?
None of it.
None of it. That's all.
those are trust funds.
Those are, so let me, the cemetery is, there's, or, we're talking cemetery, right? Cemetery has two.
Yeah.
So there's one that is
So
us.
they are split. Okay.
This is called general cemetery maintenance.
Right, that is our fund. That's not a donation fund, it's not a
It's money that we've been
money
contributing to.
we've been
over the
Yeah, I
contributing.
think there
We
should
can
be-
take it out.
Yep. And I agree, Bill. I think there should be a target on that. Could you see a future need of $100,000 for one of the cemeteries?
For expansion, probably not that much, but
But that wouldn't
In
be.
the capital
That
reserve,
wouldn't be
we-
maintenance. That probably
and
wouldn't
that would be-
qualify as maintenance.
yeah.
When we get to the trustees of the trust funds, they'd say that's a different category. So, I mean, I would think leaving $100,000 there for maintenance, it's a lot of grass to cut and fences to paint and so on.
Yeah, I mean, we got a price for hydro seed and it was maybe 20,000
Yeah.
for all of them, so.
So if you're keeping score here, what I'd like to propose is that we zero out the operating budget for cemetery expense, as long as, cemetery maintenance, as long as we stay above $100,000 in that account.
But then do we have to do a warrant article for March to withdraw a certain amount of money from the cemetery
Yep,
fund?
yep.
For maintenance?
Yep. It'll be a process, but
Can't they become agents to expend?
we may at the end decide we don't want to do that, but I'm trying to
Okay.
see where we can find a few opportunities to reduce the bottom line here.
I think it's going to be confusing, though. If,
It'll only be confusing the first time.
okay.
We're changing the way we do things, but it's only a proposal. It's not obviously, we can talk about it some more.
Okay.
But that's all I had on cemetery.
Phoebe, do you have any cemetery questions?
Nope.
All right, highway, Bob?
2 seconds. Okay. What's the next one we're doing?
Highway.
This-
Highway Administration. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good.
I have nothing for Highway Administration.
Oh, okay. No. So, well, one thing, Bob, with regard to the CDL training, when would that begin?
Okay, right now I have full drivers for all the CDL positions, but one never knows. So I prefer anybody that would like to get it, that's, maybe in the labor position, if the opportunity arises for them to get their license, I think it's a good idea because it prepares us for the future.
Right.
We have older people in highway that eventually probably going to retire. So we want to think about down the road what we want to do. And on top of that, I think it's important even if everybody there has their license, to bring in new people, if that's something we can offer to get them into the position, I think it's well worth the money spent.
Right, yeah. So how many people, for $8,000, how many would,
One,
just one?
yes.
Oh, interesting.
And it might be less than that. That's just the budget that, being new, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Primex, actually, when I talked to Elaine St. Jean, excuse me, she actually said that they offer a list, which I didn't know, so that was well worth the phone call, so I can check around a little bit on who does it. I know one of the places that we take our trucks for repairs, Patton Truck and Auto over in Croydon, they do it, which is kind of convenient because it's local. That might be a benefit being as close as it is, I don't know, but we'll look into it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're good on that? All right, what about street lighting?
We got highway, next highway first.
I thought we went through.
Highway and streets.
Oh,
That was
sorry.
highway administration.
Okay, sorry, highway, streets? Any?
So I want to ask the same question about culverts and drainage and the bridge maintenance capital reserve fund. Is that one that we can use culvert work? It's another one of those so-called dead funds that we don't add to, we don't take out. So you've got $9,800 of culvert and drainage money here. Is this something you can do the same thing I was proposing on the cemeteries? So we could take it out of the capital reserve fund? And set a target of $100,000 on it and spend it down to $100,000? But, yeah, the Bridge Maintenance Fund was formed in 1997, the cemetery one in 1983, so these are certainly legacy funds that we've obviously not been using. Lynn, I'm looking at you.
I'm sorry.
Does bridge repair and maintenance allow us to do culverts also?
I don't think every culvert is a bridge,
No,
right?
No?
Okay.
no.
Okay, so the answer is no on this one. Okay.
Usually, I believe it's anything over 4 foot is when they start to make you change it to a bridge.
Like Brookside Drive, those were,
Brookside Drive.
Brookside
Those are
Drive is a good
bridges.
example.
Or Pingree would have been okay, but not
Yep.
this stuff,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you, that's all I had on streets.
BB, do you have any?
No,
All right, street lighting.
All set? So again, it's the electricity question again.
Right, yeah. You good with that?
yep, just a question on the actual spent this year so far, 3,000, will it bump up to closer to what the budgeted amount is? Maybe I'll ask
yeah,
them
we're
that
a
question.
quarter of the year in.
Okay, it'll.
And
there'll
I suppose
be
we use a little bit more in the winter because the lights are on longer.
Okay,
They come on earlier and stay on later.
okay.
Okay. Transfer station. Questions on that?
So my question here, Bob, is for fiscal '24, we had a separate warrant article for what the composting program is dealing with.
Yep.
Do you think you can absorb, now that you've seen how it works, can you absorb whatever that's involved into the rest of your budget here and we don't need to have a separate line item for composting?
That could probably still come out of, I would think the revolving fund, where it is a form of recycling.
Okay, great. I just didn't want, I've got to keep them happy, right? And
Yep.
I don't think we need, I think we've done that as a demonstration, and I personally don't think we need to have separate money again.
Yeah, I think one of the months that we had, we pulled about 640, I think it come out to about $640 or $660 saved to the taxpayers, I think I figured out.
Okay.
Roughly in 1 month.
Great.
Oh, wow,
So,
Yep.
that's great. Okay. All right, any other, BB? Okay. Sewer.
Solid waste? Right below transfer station?
The landfill monitoring and the
Oh, yeah.
special waste drives.
Okay.
No questions.
No, we pretty much know what goes on there,
Yeah, right.
unfortunately. All right,
Where are we going? Sewer?
solid waste, yeah. It's on page 13. Questions on that? No? Are you good, Bill?
I'm fine on sewer, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So assuming this reflects the most recent rates
you're welcome.
and so on, yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Wait, I do have a question.
Oh,
So,
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
I forgot you were going
So,
to ask a question.
this is something that we used to do at the school district during the budget for each department head. So for all the department heads that are here already, just a little heads up. Dan Wolf actually started this and Ken took it over. We used to ask each department head, if we could give you more of a certain amount of money, what would you use it for? And if we had to take it away, what would you have to cut? So you get an idea of what each department head's priorities are. We used to say $100,000, but that was a larger budget for the school district, so I'm going to say $20,000. So if we could give you $20,000 more in your budget, what would you use it for?
Probably one of the things would be increased maintenance for like sidewalks, line painting, and magnesium chloride. Between paving, street paint, and the magnesium, the prices have increased quite a bit on all of those. I don't know if you noticed in my line, one of the things, I'd love to reduce the magnesium, the amount, but the problem is I can't purchase a half a trailer load. I have to buy a complete trailer load, so I'm looking into liquid form instead. So the price might be the same, might be a little bit more, I don't know at this point, because it's done by the mile. But street paint, it would be nice. I get a lot of comments about more roads having double yellow lines. That does seem to control the traffic a little better. Tends to narrow the road down, so gives them the illusion that it's a little, maybe they ought to be slowing down because it's a little bit more narrow. As I look at a lot of the sidewalks, out here as a prime example, we're seeing the asphalt starting to settle. So that's going to be something we're going to have to start looking at as far as shifting to that. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we had to reduce your budget by 20,000, where would it have to come from?
I'd probably have to start cutting on those items, which means dust control is an important thing because it holds the road together as well. If you live on a dirt road, you've probably seen part of your dirt road in the trees.
It's in my house.
Yeah, so we try to treat them. We did it twice this year, which seemed to be a huge help. The rain was actually pretty much holding the dust down this year. But once it stopped, everything dried out. Line painting, I did let it go one year, and my phone went off the hook, so that would be a tough one.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Chief Cobb. So what we're doing is we're going, looking at each section, and if we have questions, we will ask you. You don't have to go line by line.
Okay.
All right? So, does anyone have any questions with regard to police?
What page does she start on?
8. Yeah.
And I think I started looking through this one.
Chief, what do you get through the monthly pleas for help with velo? Do you get any any money at all?
Oh, the money that comes in.
No, not to provide
I think I meant
service.
the calls, yeah.
No, to pay for the, municipal matters always has an opportunity
Right.
for people to give.
Was it about 1,500 for the whole last year? We just went over these. 15 to 2, so a couple to $300 monthly, I would think.
Okay, so maybe 25% of the cost.
Yes.
Look at your numbers, okay.
Yep.
Have you felt having him is worthwhile?
Yeah, I do. He experiences, there's maybe on average, and again, this is really rough numbers, about 3 calls for service per month. But he does, and I can get those harder numbers for you if you like. But he does do, drug identification. He does missing person. He's certified in all the patrol functions. So, I think there is a value in it. Some of the challenge is keeping him busy enough because he's a very active dog. So Officer Daly does an incredible job with keeping him up to snuff and keeping him busy, keeping him exercised. He's up to date on all of his medical conditions, and he does have a special food that we get through the veterinarian, and so.
Do you have any calls for him in other towns?
Yes. Yep, we do experience that too, which is a good opportunity for us to exercise our mutual aid agreements and provide town help to towns when they ask for it for him, because that will come back to us at some point in the future with either personnel or equipment or something else like that. So,
How old is Velo?
He will be 8 this December, I believe.
Do you have is he retiring?
No plans yet. Yeah, I don't know if his investments are enough that he can retire yet, but, yeah, and it depends on the dog and how they were worked throughout their career. I think it depends on the dog's health. It depends on the desire of the town to maintain a program, like that continuously and things. So, I mean, we've been very lucky with the support we've had for the canine program once it got up and running. But just this morning, I was having a conversation about the status of the canine cruiser and where that is going to lead. So,
The Casey's like retired police dogs, so.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, no, we're done. We have our last one.
so no plans for him yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I did see a note in here, something about that you're going to be switching vehicles around.
Yeah, that's probably under new cruiser. Is that what that is?
Yep. Halfway down, page 8.
Yeah, the new cruiser.
I just want to find the sheet as well.
I'm trying to, this is a lot of pages in here. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, which after I saw the way like that Bob does his sheets, I think I'll put them all on one sheet before.
Yeah,
Again, this
it's a
is
lot of
something
paper.
I inherited, and I never changed it, not for any reason other than I was like, oh, this is what the police submit, but it doesn't have to be that way. So maybe I'll look to change that for next year.
The existing
Oh, there we go,
cruiser will
yeah.
be transitioned out of our fleet.
Yeah, so that's one of our options that we're talking about, because he does put a lot of miles on the canine cruiser to travel back and forth to training, and that engine is always idling when the dog is in it,
Right.
typically to keep the fans going, air conditioning, or heat. So there's a lot of engine hours on that car, and there are a lot of miles on that car. So it's experiencing some equipment malfunctions and, in the car itself. So that's one of the options we have, is to decommission the canine cruiser. That would be auctioned off, and then to transition that equipment, assuming it will transfer over into the existing patrol canine, or the existing patrol Tahoe. And then I've budgeted for another cruiser in there. The state bid pricing for Tahoes went up by $10,000 since last year. So they don't make Dodge Chargers anymore, which a lot of our officers like, but they're not making that in a sedan anymore. There's been a great push to go to EVs or some sort of hybrid model, certainly. So we're at kind of a loss for a sedan police cruiser, and I just don't think we're ready yet to make that jump to EVs for police cars. Yet.
If we did go with an EV, where would you have to put in a charging station here?
Yeah, oh yeah, yep.
Do you have any idea what that would cost?
I don't. I know that this building already is pretty well tapped out for electricity, just given this project and the things that we had to overcome downstairs, where the electrical panels are. So, we can't do a trickle charge or anything like that. We need a much, I think, better infrastructure to support an EV police car. So.
All right. Bill, do you have any other questions? All right. Dispatch services?
Excuse me, there is one thing in the PD budget I wanted to bring up to you and to
Okay.
just offer to the board so that you heard it here, is in conferences and training. I did ask for an increase in that, and the reason for that is, well, like I said on the sheet, I know of at least one out-of-state training that I'd like to send somebody to, and also by fiscal year '25, the number of hours that we are required to have in training will have increased by then through the Police Standards and Training Council. And the trainings, I used to be able to send somebody for a week-long supervisor school for under $500, and now they're about $600 or $700. So the cost of trainings has increased as well. So that would be the reason for that increase.
Phyllis will be happy to hear that.
Yes.
What, and where is the training?
Boston.
Oh, okay.
It's actually the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference that I would like to attend.
Okay, so it's not Las Vegas.
No, no.
Just checking. All right, dispatch.
Dispatch, computer license and fees. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about that?
Oh, you want to talk about that one?
Yes.
487% increase.
Yes, I do.
Rightfully so. So this, I talked about it a little bit last night as well at the Selectmen's meeting, but this will include the new CAD and RMS software that we are going to. And again, it's a departure from the way traditionally New London Dispatch and the other departments have paid for their records management system, is that New London and then all of the other towns independently pay a company to provide records management services. We pay for CAD, computer dispatch, and records management services. The way this is structured is that New London holds the base license for this program. So it'll work a little bit differently in that all of these towns, including New London, are not paying that company independently. The towns will pay New London to provide that RMS, and then we pay the company directly. So that would be the reason for that major increase. It is for the CAD and the records management system that all the police departments are going to be using. There is an option for fire departments to use the records management system as well. And I have another demo scheduled next week for the fire departments to look at that. But it's more about the program itself being held by New London PD and the communication center. And then the departments will see some revenues coming out of that.
Do we know, have any idea yet what that might be, what the revenue will be?
The revenues, generally, New London pays about 66%, give or take. Sunapee pays 15, Newbury is 13, and Wilmot and Sutton are 4 and 2, if I have my numbers correct, give or take. So it's the percentages, but it's based on calls for service
So
currently.
that'll be about half. It'll be about 40, so that we'll get
About 40%.
40% back. So it's still an increase of,
It is, yep, it is definitely going to be an increase, yep, and thanks for mentioning that. So the way that our CAD and RMS has been in the past is that it was a very inexpensive program to run, but one thing that we found is that there's some challenges technology-wise that we'd like to be able to support going forward, and this software will be able to do that.
Are the other towns aware of the change?
Yes, they've all been involved in the conversation pretty much from the get-go that I was looking to do something different, so,
And they're supportive?
yes.
Okay, good.
and all 7 towns, it's 7 towns, right, that are,
5 towns total that we do police and fire for. The
Yeah.
ambulance goes to 7 different towns.
Okay.
All of our 5 plus 2 others, Springfield and Croydon.
okay.
Bill, do you have any?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Fire and,
Can I ask my question to Emily?
oh, yes, please do.
And I'm going to make it $50,000.
Okay.
For which, and I was going to ask that, is that police and dispatch, or is that each, or what do I get?
Both.
Because I was thinking about that when you just said that 20,000 hitting my dispatch budget feels much different than 20,000 hitting my
Right,
police
so
budget.
50 total for both, the whole police and dispatch.
50 total. And if I had to,
If we could give that to you?
Let's say we're
what would
gonna
you
add
use
it
for?
first.
Add it first and then
Yep.
take it away.
It's kind of a tough question, because I think that the town is generally very supportive, certainly, of the things that we do need, but it might, a price tag like that, I would probably look to put into technology needs, such as a new CAD or RMS, and/or personnel.
Okay.
And if we had to take,
it
oh, you're
away?
going to ask that question too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I would have to probably take a look at the type of training, the cost of the trainings, and see, we're going to be required to attend 24 hours of training in addition to our firearms training. So instead of sending people to week-long leadership courses, might I just be able to meet that 24-hour need with some other courses that are less expensive? Maybe, but is that the best utilization of services for the town of New London? I would like to send our folks to more of those leadership type trainings, instructor development trainings, things like that, rather than go take a 4-hour course on something that you could do in your sleep. So I like to challenge our folks, and I hope to think that, they enjoy the type of training that we have here and that we're able to offer. So, certainly another item, and we just talked about it, would be the cruiser. That's a big one, and that was put into our operating budget many years ago for the right reasons, I believe. It used to be a warrant article. But if we're going to delay purchasing a cruiser, we're going to delay maintenance. It's going to start having an impact on the health of our fleet overall. So, right now the officers get in the car, they want to know that it's going to work, that the AC is going to work in the summertime and the heat's going to work in the winter, and that it's going to be a safe vehicle primarily for them to maybe go real fast in if they had to. So that would certainly be an area that that's kind of one of the bigger ticket items in the operating budget and the lines I control outside of wages. So potentially, but I would really have concerns about delaying vehicle cruiser purchases.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Emily. All right, fire and firewards? Thank you, Chief.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm going to start asking the question, any highlights that you want to point out?
Yeah, I think some of the more significant ones, uniforms and safety equipment obviously was increased. As you remember, last year we used some gopher funds to offset the purchasing of PPE, our fire gear that we wear. The National Fire Protective Association requires that all gear be replaced every 10 years. That's not necessarily based upon the number of fires that people go to, but it's also exposure to sunlight. As you go into the station, you'll notice all our windows are covered, so there's no UV rays onto our gear, which then there's degradation of the material. So we have some firefighters that actually go through more gear just because they're very active. They're active in training. They're active in response. So if you take in consideration 40 firefighters, 10-year replacement, that's 4 sets of gear, and now the gear's pretty significant when it comes to cost. Well, I think when I first joined, it was right around $750 to outfit a firefighter. Now just the pants and bunker jacket that we wear is in the $3,400 range.
So that's the reason for the increase?
So the reason for the increase, I asked to reduce the contribution last year because we got several sets of gear, more so than we normally would,
Okay.
and therefore now we're back on schedule. But in an effort to reduce the overall budget last year, that was one of the suggestions made to the Budget Committee. As far as other highlights, just from an operational standpoint, we don't have a lot. Every year, the way the budget's determined, I do for all intents and purposes, a zero-based budget. So every item is noted. If you ask what we have for why uniforms and safety has gone up or equipment replacement, we get 8 lengths of hose. Each length of hose costs $210. So there's a breakdown of actual equipment or items purchased. The real changes will come about during the capital reserve process, which I can just quickly highlight afterward.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Phoebe?
No other questions except for my final one.
Yeah.
So unless Bill has a question.
No, I'm all set, thanks.
So if we could give you, let's say, $30,000 more, what would you do with it?
Only 30?
combined budget was a little more than you did.
Fair enough, fair enough. You know, the concern in the town New London is that we've got a more distinguished community.
way to put it.
Older population, and so our challenges are staffing levels. And so we've worked really hard, whether it be the on-call officer system or staffing during daytime hours, to try to alleviate some of the issues that other towns are finding currently. There are towns that will go 2, 3, 4 tones and not have people respond. There was a major mill fire over in Claremont, and the Newport Fire Department was not able to send an engine company to assist them. That has never happened in the past. So in call-in volunteer departments, recruitment and retention has always been an issue. It continues to be, but now it's into full-time departments. And that's a real concern. So my question would be for individuals, if not you, then who? Who's stepping up? We're fortunate to have 3 full-time people, and thank you for the support. We also have a firefighter that comes in 3 days a week as a part-time firefighter. If I had additional funding, that's something that we'd look at. Coverage on the weekends might be something that we'd look at as far as expansion to those times when you need someone in-house. Out of the 800 to 1,000 calls on an annual basis, only 100 to 175 are general alarms, meaning everyone responds. And so we do that. We can say, well, it's for the budget, and certainly it's a huge cost savings for the town, but it's really to save the membership. Because if you're going to, last night I think we were in the meeting and we were called out 3 times last night in the Selectmen's meeting. People just can't, for all intents they're part-time employees, but they're volunteering their time. So I would say that increase staffing levels, and then in conjunction with that, to sort of piggyback on what the police chief had indicated, training is hugely, hugely important, and how we deliver that in-house, how we deliver that internally. But if you look at the town report from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there's a huge change, and I'm happy to extrapolate that and give that out. That might be a nice memo for the select board. Huge change in personnel, shockingly so. If we look at the last 20 years, who is still in the fire department, or when I started? Actually, there's no one on the fire department from when I first started. It's so that training is a huge part. As far as the second question, what would we do if $30,000 was reduced? We don't have an operating budget large enough to reduce something by $30,000 because there's no one line item. So what would that mean? That would be a reduction in personal protective equipment. We'd go into that. We'd reduce $3,400 a year for one set. We would maybe not replace tires on apparatus. Tires on apparatus are about $1,000 a piece. You've got 6 tires, that's $6,000. We just replaced our ladder trucks tires. Again, NFPA has a standard of 7 years. We did it after 10. You look at the tragic bus crash that happened a couple weeks ago, it's because of blown out tires. Like, is it worth crashing a $1.2 million fire truck for having aging tires? And there's a reason why they make that recommendation. So we'd have to go through individually and pluck things out. So it's not just one, okay, we're not going to do oil changes this year, or whatever the case is. It would need to be line item by line item that we'd have to reduce that area.
Okay.
Or reduce staffing during the daytime hours.
Yep.
So maybe that part-time person then doesn't cover 3 days a week.
Okay.
Bill, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
You all set? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Great.
Yeah.
Capital, you want me to quick little plug?
Do you want to do capital items?
No, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Just coming down the road.
Okay. Yeah, if we could wait till the end, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, Lou, emergency management,
Warmed up, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Good morning.
morning.
What would you do with $30,000 less?
Let the town burn. Because that's what the job of emergency management is.
Yeah.
To be the Grim Reaper
Yep. Okay.
with some expertise.
I have no other questions.
All right. So what are the emergency supplies that went up?
The emergency supplies, as you know, because of the fact that we have an emergency, a hazard mitigation plan and a local operations plan, to which basically these obey, we have our own supply of emergency nutrition. Given the fact that New London is probably going to be on its own, and it has been on its own through the 2 near catastrophic disasters that we have had, which is both of them ice storms. And so if you notice, last year, we zeroed everything since we have enough of a supply. However, we've got some supplies that are becoming expired, so we're going to give those for civic purposes and replenish them to make sure that we have an adequate supply of emergency meals. And those can be used for in a shelter environment, or those can also be used in case, for example, you have a shelter-in-place situation because of a security condition in town, and people like the staff, the town staff that may be locked in, or people in town can access them.
Lou, do you also have food for pets? Because we know
Yes.
that was an issue
We
last
do. As a matter of fact, I just took most of the pet supplies away from the police department, since, as the building was being remodeled, and we set them up also in the storage trailer that we have. We don't have a lot of pet food per se, but we have all the accoutrements, the beds, the cages and everything like that, that we can, at a moment's notice, deploy a pet shelter.
Okay, good.
Now, we also have not just dogs and cats, but we also have, space and material for like birds, stuff like that, which, it seems, but again, that's part of emergency management, so we have it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Bibi?
No,
Do you want to do your?
no. It would probably be the,
Well, if I had $20,000 extra dollars, I would, and I think this is more of a philosophical thing for you to think about. You saw what just happened in Maine, in Lewiston.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. If you look at our hazard mitigation plan, terrorism is considered a level 2 possibility. I think it probably, as we go into a new emergency, into a new hazard mitigation plan, is probably going to become a little higher. And I think if I had $20,000 extra dollars, I would spend them in coordination with the chief of police in strengthening the security of some of our buildings, which are readily accessible, and none is more vulnerable than our police department. And I really, I lose sleep over that. I will tell you that. I think if it became a case, we should be able to lock the buildings down, and we really don't have that capability right now. So if I had more money, yes, that's what I would do. I wouldn't buy any more stuff. I would spend it on things that will protect people's lives.
Okay.
thank you, Lou. Appreciate that.
Bill, you're good? Okay, thank you, Bill. All right. Administrative. Okay. Who's presenting? Okay. Do you have any questions for Kim?
So I would suggest that perhaps we increase the moderator's income in 2 stages rather than 1. That's generally, we've sort of done these upward. I would suggest that we increase the Selectmen's discretionary account in 2 stages. So I would put on the table $3,500 reduction in the moderator line and a $2,500 line in the Selectmen's discretionary account line.
How much for the moderator, Bill?
1,000.
Okay.
Again, for discussion, but those are just proposals.
And put them in the,
Instead of a 2,000.
No, I would just spend $3,500 less in this budget, and if we want to continue to increase that salary or increase the discretionary account, that it'd be done over several years, not all at once.
okay. BB, any thoughts on that?
No, I have to digest it first.
So, let's see, the moderator is going to have,
So the
how many
moderator-
elections next year? We're going to have,
This is FY '25,
right, yeah, okay.
so
I'm just thinking,
I mean, I understand the amount of work that the moderator does, but
Right.
it's in a very contained period of time, whereas the work that the 3 of us do is spread out over the entire year, ditto with the health officer and so on. So and the welfare officer, all of which are at the same level. So I would think this was a case where maybe over time it should be increased. We probably should have done it for the current year in terms of the election cycle, but
So you're suggesting instead of 5,000 to be what?
like, I guess maybe, let me go back and think about the calendar here for a minute. I may have made a mistake, I usually do. The national election in November of 2024 is actually going to be in our fiscal '25.
Right.
So maybe I've misstated that. Maybe I don't feel as strongly about it as I just did.
What I was
I'm
trying,
looking for opportunities for us to make a few adjustments.
right, yeah.
Yep.
But I still would think that would be an opportunity, because that's a big percentage jump in 1 year, which is,
So it would be $4,000 instead of.
right, and
Okay.
the discretionary fund would be 5,000 instead of 7,500.
yeah, on the moderator, I was trying to get it so it used to be per election.
Oh, right.
And, Michael expressed to me that that's not really fair because it's year-round, especially the last couple of years. The work of the moderator is year-round. Yes, the full-day work is an election, but trying to get it more to a set amount of stipend, just like the selectman, health officer, and all the rest.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the stipend, it's just, do we want to jump it all at once?
And reduce.
Not many other opportunities here
Reduce, yeah.
to save any money. We'll wait to see when BB asks her question whether Kim has a different answer.
And what all is in the discretionary account? What do you think is going to happen with that?
Those are things that you folks decide to do that are not inside the budget. It used to be just for the employee Christmas party, but when you do things like studies, that's one area that it would go in. Things, initiatives that you want to do that you don't have a specific line item for. Studies is one that we've used in the past. Money that went into the coalition communities came out of there. So if you don't feel the need to have an account where you can have those sort of unplanned things, you don't have to have a discretionary account at all.
So the amount of money that we've been spending there
Yeah.
has been much greater than the budget anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, if we were going to really look at that, we probably ought to increase it to 15,000. That's been what we've been spending, so I don't know.
I thought I'd go a little more conservative.
I went a lot more conservative.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, what kind of small studies have we done that wouldn't require $20,000? I mean, I'm not sure.
It might help to know, just for me anyway, it might help to know what we've spent, what these 15,889 in 2023.
We can print that out.
Was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know,
And
I know it's the
we've
party,
already
but-
overspent it this year so far. Do we anticipate
Yeah.
spending more?
Yep.
We're having a Christmas party.
Yeah, so you have about 1,500, 2,000 for that. That's, again, what it used to be exclusively for that.
Right. Okay,
That's all I have
Okay.
under executive.
okay. Phoebe, do you have any questions?
No?
You want to ask him?
Sure. Why don't we say, give the $20,000?
I would put it in employees, training. The staff in the town office don't really go to any trainings other than some Primex, either half-day or full-day trainings. So I definitely would put it into developing staff. The way we've had turnover, that I think that those kinds of things, salary is certainly important, but those things like training, doing things like that, developing them, is where I would put it.
Now, this would specifically be office staff?
Yep.
Not planning and zoning or none of
No,
those?
Adam has his own account, so this would be,
Right, okay.
this would be the land use assessing coordinator, this would be the administrative assistant.
Okay.
Lynn could as well, but I mean trainings that, a couple of day trainings. They really only do Primex half-day things.
And are those online?
Some of them are online,
Primex?
some, they go to Concord or Manchester, but it's really a half-day thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And if we had,
Yeah.
if we had to cut, I would cut the Selectmen's discretionary fund. You guys can find it somewhere else.
No Christmas party.
Can we talk afterwards?
Okay,
Okay.
we're good with that?
Yep.
All right, town clerk.
Clerk's not here.
He's not
I
here.
was on the phone with Steve on his way, but it'll be.
Okay. Shall we do finance instead? Okay, Lynn?
So Lynn, can you explain to us where we stand on the software, please?
Yes, please.
Yep.
That was my big question.
So we did a second round of looking at budget software with the two that I narrowed it down to, and it was myself, Chief Cobb, Colin Beasley, and John Wilson. So we went through the, Questica was the name of the company, so went through that. We have another one with the other final contender, that's going to be on November 1st or 2nd, I don't recall, and that will be the same group of people, and then we will make a decision and do a matrix per Colin's suggestion was to do just a column matrix of what each one features, because they're really close to each other, like what they offer, what they have. So yeah, I'm hoping to make a decision before the end of the year so that I can then purchase it and start working on it throughout the spring, late winter, spring, so that we're ready for at least a portion of it for next budget season.
So can we therefore eliminate the item in the proposed for the FY25 budget? There's a $25,000,
That's ongoing.
what?
That's ongoing. That cost is a yearly cost for the software and support.
Let me look.
Wait, I'm,
Computer license and fees, 2,000, and then.
So the budget software,
4201.
So the initial license will be approximately 54,000. And the
no,
annual-
the budget
annual-
software is initially 25, the budget software has its own line for all of it. So the initial purchase is going to be 25,000. That includes the licensing, that includes all the training they're going to do, it includes them loading an awful lot of data for us. And then the ongoing licensing and training and support is 25,000. It is line item 415010034201.
What page?
just by coincidence, it's the same number? By coincidence, it's the
I
same
was
number?
looking at the note.
It has an 01 after it, yes,
No,
but
it's
we,
the same, the purchase price and the ongoing.
oh, yes. And again, it's because it's been so long, that's going to change a little bit. As a matter of fact, it was just slightly under the 25. And I will be getting new numbers, and I'll probably have solid new numbers before the end of budget season, but it is going to be in the $24,000 to $25,000.
And we don't lose any of the current support and licensing stuff that we've, on the existing?
No, because this is all new software to us.
Okay. So nothing comes out of the line item above,
Correct.
the 50-some thousand dollars of license fees
Correct.
That gets saved by buying this new software.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. I might have to go over that one more time, but not today. I'll do it with you separately. Okay.
Do you want to, do you have any questions, or you want to get to your main?
Conferences and training, up 100%. Oh, and then this. So yeah, $20,000.
More software? I don't even know where I would, 20,000 is a lot for the portion of my budget that it
15.
handles. $15,000? Yeah, I'm gonna have to mirror Kim on the training. There's so much out there for training, that would love to be able to do that, to go to many more. That's why I upped it a little bit, because there were a few that I wanted to do this year that I just couldn't do. So I'd love to do some trainings that maybe are a little further away, which would require, an overnight stay, a couple overnight stays.
Also, the two software packages that you're looking at, do I understand correctly? Last night you said that they will incorporate adding in the CIP data so that you can, how does that work? Is it, unless it's too complicated to explain?
Essentially, they're going to marry the two things that we have. Like, so CIP would load their information in, and that would require Adam to have a little bit of a role in that. They would load that in. It would also compare it to your capital reserves that are linked with each of those to see where you're at, where you're going to be. So that's
A good planning tool.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Okay, so, is our town clerk here? No. Okay. Okay.
So Adam, you didn't tell him about how much he has to spend 20,000 less, did you? Okay.
It makes you think about,
Yeah.
well, and it helps us
Well-
to learn what your priorities, it helps us to learn, to kind of get into what everybody's,
Okay.
wipe your brow.
I hope it's good.
So, we're just asking you questions. You don't have to go line by line. Bill, do you have questions for Will?
I'm all set with town clerk.
Okay. BB?
Why is your office assistant line going down?
My office assistant line is going down, Lynn.
Wages are on me, but I think it's really too from last year. The number of hours that she's in.
Okay.
Sorry, Bill.
And then, okay, so, the ballot machine expense, okay, which we have do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we need a new ballot machine. They're no longer going to support ours after 24, likely. They haven't set an exact date yet, but we don't want to be messing with that. And I've went to the conference and heard a lot of great tales about how ugly it is when they start to go bad. And if we could not have anything to do with that, I would be appreciative.
So can you give an update on the ballot machine, because this is a public meeting and we're being recorded, so it'd probably be good for everybody who's going to watch this recording, because we know, but not everybody knows the
Yep.
status.
So, yeah, the AccuVote machine that we have that we've been using for recent memory is going to no longer be supported. So the state has tentatively blessed 2 machines to replace that. So Michael and I are looking at those machines. We're pretty locked into one of them, but not, we're going to look at the other one, and they're going to come and do their demonstration and that sort of stuff just to make sure we're not missing something. But the new one looks kind of neat, and it's a different way of doing voting. It's a nonprofit company. It's all open source software, which the other one is most definitely the opposite of that in a lot of ways. So it's kind of a neat thing, and it gives us more reports, and we can do some more stuff with it, and it makes our jobs much easier on the end. And it's something that will continue to be supported beyond '24, which is the big part for us. But, they're coming with the second machine sometime at the beginning of November. We hope to have our decision finalized. The state's not going to actually bless them until March officially. So there's still going to be some back and forth up until then because we don't control all of this and something could happen above us that changes something or whatever. But I think, like I say, I think Michael and the elections team is pretty focused on one of them compared to the other. And, it's something we'd be excited about. And, said we were going to do it last year, and here we are doing it. And I'll tell you now, we're going to be coming for new voting booths next year. And then hopefully it can go back down after that. But there's these three between the poll pads, the voting machines, the new voting machine, and the ballot stuff. It's a $10,000 chunk each year, basically. But once we get beyond that, we should be good for a while. So that's sort of the overall plan.
Do you have poll pads?
The poll pads are in their testing phase at this point. LHS has them, so they go from Apple to the company, and then LHS tests them exhaustively for a couple months and loads all the stuff, and then they'll come here, and we'll start doing trainings for people here to get those ready to use for January, whenever that election might be. Once they tell us. So, which would be lovely to know any day now.
The day before. Yeah.
So, yes, Dave Scanlon seems to think we can pull it off in 2 weeks, but well, I love that vote of confidence. I'm not sure I'd like to try that. But yeah, that's basically where we are at in terms of town clerk elections and tax collectors. And the other ups were modest, I would say, compared to most anything. Nothing exciting there.
So, Biba, you want to? Yep, so you weren't here earlier, but what I've been doing with each department head is asking them if we could give you a certain amount of money more, what would you use it for? If we had to take it away, what would you cut? So if I said $10,000, I would guess that you would say you have to postpone the purchase of the new voting machine.
Correct. But I think that's a really bad idea with the caveat.
But if we could give you $10,000 more in your budget, what do you think you would like to use it for?
If we were to do $10,000 more, I think we would probably some of that would go to an adjustment of the supervisors' salaries, because I'm not quite sure they're at a place they should be for what they do, and they're not up on the same level that Michael was, but they need to modestly go up, I think, at some point in the relatively near future, because they haven't in a long time. And with all things election, we're winding up doing a lot more than we used to, and an election of 10 years ago was much different than an election of today.
How much are their wages? I see a total of 1,800.
Correct, 600 for each
600,
year.
there's three of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're just needing to have more meetings. They're needing to do more things. So, and they are good about reminding me about that, but they've also been good about waiting a little bit because they know that some of this other stuff needs to go through first. So, but yeah, I would say some of it would go to them, and then probably I don't know that we would be able to get all of the voting booths, but we would probably do some earlier maybe, so that we could have some of the old and some of the new to sort of show people what it'll be like and transition a little bit. But a voting booth isn't something that's super complicated. So I think if they were to all show up at one point, we'd be fine.
Are they going to be easier to assemble than what we've got now? Is that the idea, or?
My intention would be is that Public Works might not have to set them up again, and that they could fold down pretty small and light and go in that closet like they should. And also the new ballot machine, some of that box will fold down as well. So, that would help us with storage. It's not gonna make the storage issue go away, certainly, but it makes it a little bit better, and it's something that, you or I could set up versus 4 guys from Public Works. So that would be a nice thing to be able to do and take some of the stuff off of them, because those guys do a lot for elections, and particularly when it's snowy time and that sort of stuff, there's other stuff they could be doing.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Good? Good. All right, what about tax collector line? Any questions about that budget?
Wait a minute. What page is that start on?
That's on 3.
Oh, here we go. Gotcha. Okay. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that just went up by $50 because we're going to likely have to record some stuff at the Registry of Deeds, more so than we are now.
And is this where?
And that'll be fun, we can talk about later, another time.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, you're going to ask him?
Do you want me to ask it?
I don't think he's going to take any money out of that budget.
No, it's okay. We'll pass on that.
Which month? Oh, jeez.
Well, how
okay.
about, okay, no, well, tell me what you think, where you think you could improve for the tax collector, if you had $10,000, or what you would use it for?
$10,000 for tax collector. Well, I guess probably our next thing there is starting to look at new softwares and that sort of stuff, but that's not a $10,000 thing. Because at some point Munismart is going to not continue to do what they're doing. They've going to do something new, which would incur new costs and that sort of stuff, and we need to look at all sorts of stuff, and there's all sorts of software out there that you can do some of it with, but it's really Lynn and I trying to figure out how we integrate our things, because there is no software to rule them all that does everything for a town that needs to do, so it's a matter of cobbling together all these things from, and there's some software overall that doesn't necessarily fall under me that we don't have, but there is agenda management software and that sort of stuff that we don't do much of that would make a lot of the agenda side of it easy and that sort of stuff. But, that's a whole different deal, but we need to sort of evaluate overall software. But that's not, like I say, that's not going to be $10,000, but that would be the next, thing that needs to happen there. And I say that because I'm looking for something to make up, to tell you, to be honest with you. Like, tax collector's pretty solid right now in terms of what it does. It's not something that has evolved a lot from 1,000 years ago to now, besides computers. So, that one's pretty good. There's no real big pie in the sky desires for tax collector, other than the people to pay their bills on time and that sort of stuff, because that makes our lives a lot easier, not having to send out all those letters.
Go back to quarterly tax collections if you'd like.
Back to quarterly?
I mean, monthly.
Are we at quarterly?
No, monthly, but back to
monthly. That would be good. We could do that. Yeah, if you guys wanted to set up payment plans for people and manage those would be lovely, by all means.
Okay.
Okay, are we good
Thank
with that?
you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right, so assessing legal and personnel, is that you, Kim? All right. Anybody have any, we know what the assessor services are, and tax map update, that's ongoing. Legal fees, that was increased because we've had cases that we've had to defend.
Right, and that's an area where, each year you look at it, you can stay at 10,000. The last couple of years, we've had some extraordinary legal matters that hopefully won't be repeated, but, these things come up.
Right.
Okay.
Have any questions about those?
No.
Nope.
Okay, those are 3 and 4. All right, planning and zoning. That's page 4.
Yep.
Hello.
Okay, Bill, do you have questions for Adam?
No.
Okay.
This is mostly, correct me if I'm wrong, it's mostly salary and wages.
It's about 95% my salary and wages. So if I have to cut 20,000, it's gonna get awkward.
And that's also where the 20 would go, right, Adam?
But it's valid.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I
Any
guess.
highlights you have for the,
Sure. Yeah. I think one spot that has not been utilized. The numbers are still in there, and we've kept them pretty flat, but that you may see low usage over the last few years is for training for planning and zoning board members. One, a lot of the in-person trainings were not held over the last few years, but two, we've had a really stable, consistent group of members on the two boards, and I do see that, in the next year or two starting to turn over, and then I think we will probably have to look at training for new members more heavily, because most of our members have, in some cases, 10 years of experience on the boards, and so they don't feel the need to necessarily take advantage of the trainings in the same manner as new members might. So hopefully we have 2 new members on the zoning board, and they have both recently expressed interest in training. So that's one spot that I know last year the question was, that they'd stayed at 0. If I had extra money, I think the first thing, obviously, it's only a $115,000 budget, so I would anticipate it will be a few $1,000s extra. But we have a project that is sort of half finished from a couple years ago, when all of the map and lot numbers changed in town. That obviously creates a substantial amount of work for our century's worth of land records. And so at the time we had administrative support staff who had the time in her schedule to work on that and start converting all of our files to the new map and lot number. I share that position with the assessing department. As you're aware, the assessing department has had a very high level of need the last 18 months. So I think if we had the ability to have sort of a special project person to come in a few hours a week and wrap that up, that will substantially help the records digitization project that is, a couple years down the line. It'll get done at some point between now and then, but that's a spot where if we had a few extra $1,000, it would be, well spent there. It would also help, as a little example, I recently had to go find some documents from Fenwood from the early 90s. Once I finally found the Fenwood box, in that box labeled specifically for Fenwood was the clock tower study for the Baptist church, the grounds site plan from the early 2000s. So, someone who at the same time could sort of look through and take out the things that really shouldn't be in those boxes that we find by happenstance and we correct when we do, but we don't just have time to dig through the basement on a regular basis.
Could that be an intern project?
Potentially, if you're going to ask them to actually look at individual files, like finding things that shouldn't be there, having somebody with a little bit more knowledge of the town is helpful in that regard, because they don't necessarily pick up on, what should or shouldn't be there. But certainly, the labeling and renumbering could be.
Okay.
What about, and we've talked in the past about doing a Main Street study. What about that? That would be something.
Yep. So, I think the dollar amount that we think is needed for that, a few $1,000s wouldn't get us very far. As an example, for a third-party review for a zoning board case that ended up not moving forward, but the applicant bears the cost of a third-party review, but we are the actual client, and so there's an escrow account and things. But, typically we saw those coming in at a couple $1,000s, and when I actually sent out requests to engineers to give us proposals, I think I sent out 8, and I got 1 offer back, and it was $10,000. And so, the engineering costs have just gone up dramatically. Right. So though it would be nice to be able to bump that up, I think the level of need there would basically be if you were doubling my budget, then we could accomplish something on that level, unfortunately.
Okay. Bill? All set. All set? Thank you, Ann.
Yep.
Okay.
Janet,
Yeah.
could we just go back on page 4 for a minute?
Okay.
We breezed over personnel administration because most of that is just in and out stuff. But Kim, your write-up on tuition reimbursement says add 1,000, and the sheet here has 2,000 added?
Yep.
Yeah, you had,
I think 1,000 ought to come out, either ought to come
Talked
out.
about 2,500 I'd like for the total.
You only asked for 1,500.
But the sheet, I think we decided on 2,500, because it was at, what, 1,000?
Was that 500 and your text asks for 1,000 more?
And then where was 2,000?
In this worksheet.
it's in.
Yeah, in the worksheet. I guess Lynn and I had talked, I think it should be 2,500,
Because,
because we have at least one person that will do it, and it's a potential that they could get 2 courses.
okay, because that's just different than what you had
Right.
in your text.
Yep.
Okay? I'm all right, I'm all right.
You good?
Unless somebody wants to question that.
Okay. Insurance, where is that?
So I think we're on page 13, aren't we?
Is that
Health
it?
and welfare, after my interruption.
Oh, I know, but insurance, do we need to look at that at all, or?
Those are the monies that go to the library. that Just gets, isn't that just the transfer? Those
Okay.
are library benefits that just go through our budget and out to the,
You're looking at, I think, Jan, sorry.
I'm looking at section 2,
Yeah,
insurance.
Janet's looking at the town insurance.
Yeah,
oh,
and what,
Okay, where is it?
and what page is that on?
4196.
I know, but what page?
I'm getting that.
Oh, I'm sorry,
7.
thanks.
7. Insurance, general unemployment, workers' comp.
I don't see it on page 7.
Yeah, two-thirds of
Unemployment
the way
comp,
down.
workers' comp, for the
Oh.
library,
Oh, okay,
property liability, that's Primex.
okay.
And then our insurance claims deductibles, which we try very hard not to use any.
So are these numbers that you've gotten from the companies that, okay, so these are set,
That is correct.
okay.
We have no choice on that.
Right. That's my point.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right,
Okay.
okay.
but we're going to come back to the Chamber of Commerce when we later down here?
Yep,
Under section 6?
yep.
Wait, I do,
You can talk about it now if you want, doesn't make any difference, but
that reminds me so for health insurance, are we going to talk about that later? Or because we're talking about in each individual, have you got the number yet from the health insurance?
We have the not to exceed number,
Yeah,
which was
14%.
14.6, I think, and then it was like 4.7 or 1.7 for dental. Dental went up a small amount.
Is that the number you used for this?
I did.
Okay.
So everything in here reflects that not to
14%.
exceed number, so it could come down a little bit. Last year, it came down like a micrometer, so
And by what date do you hear from the insurance company what it will be?
like April.
Oh,
Yeah, not till, well after we're done with
Yeah,
this.
we
really?
never know.
Okay.
So the Upper Valley and the Chamber of Commerce seem to, they show up here as opposed to not, say,
yeah, because that's the chart of accounts from the state, so
Yeah.
we put them in your
So-
binders under nonprofits.
I don't think, the Upper Valley thing is, that's their annual increase in their fee for all towns, so there's nothing there. I don't think this is the year to increase the Chamber of Commerce. We've had it where it's been, and I think, that we ought to continue at 12,500 there.
So, Bill, where are
I'm
you?
on the bottom of page 7,
Okay,
under advertising and regional associations, just before police. This is the way the chart of accounts is set up, I guess Lynn's saying.
I think they asked for the same increase last year,
Yeah,
right?
every year they've asked since I've been on the
Oh,
board.
okay.
Yeah. But I think, this is a regional thing that's just not just New London, and I think they do a fine job and so on, but I don't think with all the other things we're trying to hold the line on, this is the year to do a 20% increase in that.
so you
What
want
do
to go back
say?
to 12.5?
Go back to 12.5?
Hold it at 12.5, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we didn't do health and welfare or any of
No,
those?
so that's page 13. Health,
I know,
health
but-
starts at page 13.
I know, but I don't, how did we get to?
Bill just,
where Bill is?
Bill went there because he was
just
on
saw
that
it.
page.
He saw it.
He was
when
on
we
that
were talking
page.
about, oh, okay.
You are allowed to switch around if you like,
We're
that's
bouncing
perfectly
around. I
fine.
know, but it's hard to find this.
I had it on my list, and I saw it sitting there when we were talking about something
Okay.
else, that's all.
All right. So, health and welfare, do we want to do anything with that budget?
Let me get back to the notes.
It's really just his,
I think that may be
not
page
much to
13.
do.
I would just comment that I'm totally impressed with the work we've gotten from the health officer in the last couple of years. I think that's been a marvelous increase in service competency.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the better word I want to use.
Yeah. We got any?
And giving us a nice bridge to what Colby Sawyer does with
Yeah.
his classes and so
Yes,
on.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
Any of the other agencies, any questions, concerns about any of them?
And I would say the same on welfare. Celeste has really had her hands full. She does an awesome job.
Oh, I still
Yeah.
see it.
Hadn't come to that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Health,
Yeah, between health and,
okay, health and welfare.
and our welfare officers, they're great. They really are. They've been amazing.
So again, I guess on the health agencies, the question is, again, do we want to increase CASA?
Yeah, is there a reason for that, increasing that?
And I think it's not on here, but somewhere in all this paper, there was a request from the Upper Valley VNA to get started.
Right, with CASA, I would say it's this, probably the same as the chamber. They're realizing increased costs, so they've asked for more. And Bill's right, we have this, the other VNA. I did ask them to fill out the social service application to supplement their letter since they're a first time. I think they've requested in, last year they requested and then they
last year,
pulled
too.
it back. So I haven't heard back from them yet.
As far as they're concerned, I think relatively speaking, they had 3 cases in New London or something, so again, sympathetic to everybody wanting some help, but there's only so many places we can help.
Right, that we do already have a VNA. Okay.
And as of this month's letter from the Lake Sunapee Visiting Nurses Association, they've announced that they've been able to increase their staffing and are going back up to Grafton County, so that reinforces the fact that we're probably getting that service through the Lake Sunapee group.
Okay.
So, just asking about the welfare vendor payments increase, how that happens.
By demand.
Right. I mean, I think it's been 6,000 since I started here.
Yeah.
But as maybe you've read in the papers, there was federal program to help with first month's rent and security deposit. That has ended. So Celeste is seeing lots more clients who were moved here to the town to stay in temporary housing. Now their assistance has been withdrawn, and so the town has a legal obligation to assist those people.
Okay, anything else on any of those?
Nope.
Maybe? No? Okay. Recreation? Putnam? All right, do we have questions for Putnam?
Okay, so hold on a minute. Waterfront staff wages. So the waterfront staff wages is both lifeguards and beach attendants.
Yep. Yep, and I think, that's
the most significant increase in the budget this year, and I think trying to find the balance between having the beaches staffed with well-trained guards and attendants, trying to navigate the weather, which is unpredictable, and usage, which can be ebb and flow depending on the weather. We saw a lot of that this year, that people just didn't get into very much of a beachy mode, but we can't really, I can't just all of a sudden say, oh, well, it's going to be cloudy today, or it's projected to be sunny today, maybe people will show up, maybe people won't. So I definitely try to find the balance between having the beaches staffed adequately, but also trying to give the hours to the kids who need it, manage their somewhat inconsistent schedules sometimes of when they can be there and when they can't. When they say, oh, I can work all summer long, and then all of a sudden, oh, I didn't know I was going to be gone for 2 weeks in July. So things like that. So it's definitely striking the balance between that, but really keeping an eye on having professional, committed staff, keeping an eye on our bottom line, and making sure that we're trying to meet the needs of the community to have the beaches covered safely and effectively, but also, keep an eye on how much we're spending, and really making sure we're using that responsibly. The other big ones were, we're putting a metal bench at Elkins to replace one of the wooden ones. So that would be kind of a hopefully yearly thing until we could get it all metal down there. And then the other one was that a projected liner for the rink. The rink liner we have this year has some fixable wear and tear on it, so hopefully we can get through this winter and then be able to purchase a new one next fall. And that's what goes underneath that the water sits on, basically. And if that has holes in it, then the water leaks out.
So, with regard to the van, what kind of condition is that in?
Van is in quite good condition, and it is really useful for me to be able to move things around in the summertime for events. Like this weekend, I'll be loading it full of stuff for Halloween. We really would like to be able to use it more for groups like it has been in the past and programming. That would entail me having another person to do that with, kind of a support staff person to be able to take kids on trips and things like that, to be able to use it like that. Or we definitely would like to be able to use it more for adult group events as well, that they've used it in the past. So certainly want to utilize that resource as much as we can. But it is a process to kind of, I can't just turn the switch on and then all of a sudden be using it. I want to use it responsibly, and I want to be able to use it with the staff to cover it, which is more than myself at this point.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the right piece of paper. Isn't there still a small capital reserve fund for the van sitting around somewhere?
Nope, we used it.
We used it. Great, fantastic.
All 20.
Yeah, good, okay, good.
Yep. And it just got inspected, and it looks good, and so.
Good, okay.
Okay, good.
Dee, do you want to?
Nope, I'm going to think more, but I'm good at the moment.
You don't want to ask him about what he
Oh,
more or
sure.
less?
I know, so if I got $100,000. I was waiting for that.
Apologize. All right, $10,000. What would you use it for?
$10,000, I would be excited to be able to probably spend some of that on, be able to spend some on our staff and staff training and training for myself, and then put the other half maybe towards infrastructure improvements, looking at some of our facilities at the beaches, try to be able to put some money towards those, whether it would be for equipment for the lifeguards or equipment for the beaches themselves.
Okay. And if we had to take it away, I assume it would be the new bench at Elkins.
Yep. I am flexible to adjust as possible, but I certainly want to be able to offer what the community would like, but I also want to be aware of the money that's going into this. So there is a lot of, like for a lot of the departments, it's expensive stuff. Picnic benches are expensive. rescue equipment is expensive, staff is only increasing, so I do really want to be able to provide great services for the community and the residents here, but also be able to be responsible about how much we're spending and be accountable for how much we're spending. So I'm open to any and all suggestions about trimming the fat where we can.
So how many kayaks and sailboats and paddleboards, things like that, do we own? And are those?
We have, so sailboats hasn't really ever come back since COVID. We've tried to do that this year. We put an ad in to try to hire someone as a sailboat instructor. So I would say that there's demand and interest in that coming back in the community.
Do we still own the boats?
We still own the boats.
How many boats do we have?
We probably have eight or nine.
And where are they?
They are by the sewer building.
Okay.
Yes,
One
so
of Bob's sheds.
yes, and some of them are in better shape than others. And we had hoped to be able to combine with the Lake Sunup Yacht Club and some recreation this summer on
Yeah.
some sort of collaborative opportunity to offer some lessons that never really got off the ground. But I know people in the community would like to be able to get that back.
Yep.
I would as well, but it does need to be done well, safely. We need a licensed sailboat instructor. And then comes with that, if we're having sailboats out on the water, do we need rescue boats of our own? Do we need to train our staff to be able to do that? So that is certainly on my radar, but I think in the short term for fiscal year 25, the sailboats isn't really an option. So the kayaks and paddleboards, I think we have probably 16 all told, between maybe 16 to 20 between both beaches, a combination of kayaks and paddleboards, and that's what the attendants will loan out to people free of charge. They have paperwork and waivers that they do, a process they do. So that is a popular program. This summer was lower just because of the weather, and we had a lot of windy days and a lot of weather coming through where we don't frequently put out the boats. So I think, again, where we saw numbers decreased in beach usage because of the weather, we saw those decreased. But again, with the attendance, I can't predict when people are going to want to come down there. I can't predict when people have friends in town. I can't predict when they have visitors. So if we have attendants that are on, that all of a sudden it's really busy and maybe we need 2 attendants, or it's not busy at all and then we have attendants there, they take care of the beaches as well. They'll do raking and things around, checking the bathrooms and things like that. But so that's kind of a hard thing to predict, and we are looking into other kind of options of being able to have people have access to kayaks and paddleboards and maybe not have the attendants there. So we're looking into other options that might be able to have a similar.
Because don't the people have to sign waivers when they take them out?
Yes, there's some different things out there that we're exploring very tentatively now, but it's certainly a great resource. It was something that was I kind of inherited in. It's not something that a lot of places do. But it is something that people really enjoy, but it can be hit or miss sometimes as to the numbers of people who use it, and also on windy days when there's thunder and lightning and things like that. Those are all things we need to be accounting for around usage.
All right. Good. Bill?
All set, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Library.
As they get set up, do you want us to order lunch now? Will we take a break at noon? Yes. Yeah, okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Hello. I've just shared with you the memo, which I typically would have submitted with the budget, but due to some time constraints this month, did not get that done until yesterday. But that is the narrative, which shows some of the highlights of our request, and I can talk through some of those with you. I also just want to note that in this case, I'd love to take a few minutes during this part to speak to our capital reserve, in part because the way we kind of make that recommendation through the library is different than other town departments. I understand your discussion will be later during this meeting today, but we do have Sherry Williams, our Chair of the Board of Trustees, joining this meeting, and I'd love to be able to just kind of present the request while she is still here, in respect for her time. So should I just go through some of the highlights, or do you want to start with questions?
Well, Crystal, can we just start by agreeing on the understanding that actually this board has no authority to raise or decrease your requests, and the Budget Committee will spend some time with you on that, I'm quite certain. So I have just an overall observation, which it seems to me that the proposed budget from the library in total is sort of out of balance with the rest of the town. I mean, the library is talking about an increase of almost 17%, and the rest of the town is increasing less than half of that, and the same is going to be true when we talk about the capital reserves, is that you're proposing what would be probably 10% or more of what the whole town is going to be able to ask the taxpayers for. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to spend some time sort of not merging the library's budget, because we can't do that, but to understand why the library should be such a much larger percentage increase than any other department.
Absolutely. And Bill, I appreciate you calling attention to the uniqueness nature of the library's budget. It's
right here.
Yeah. So our budget is approved by the Library Board of Trustees, as well as our capital reserve request, and that took place on October 11th of this year. And so, yes, we do have a significant increase in our operating budget. And there are a few reasons for that. The operating budget on the whole is only increasing 13%, but what you see in your budget is for the town appropriation, so the amount that comes from the town as opposed to the other income sources that the library has.
Well, that happens because I do have some accounting question, but because for some reason your library reserve fund source of funds has gone down substantially.
Yes, so that line for the library reserve funds is from the previous year's donations and also some of the larger donation funds which the library trustees have ownership of. And so the reason for, so if we look back to fiscal year 2023 was the first year we actually drew on those reserve funds, and in that year drew just over $44,000. In fiscal year 2024, drew just over $42,000, and that was to help address some of the increased need we were seeing, but isn't a long-term sustainable solution because there are only so many reserve funds available to the library. So the goal of the library trustees this year was to still pull from that reserve, but to reduce the amount and to request more funds from the taxpayers. And so that is one factor in the increase of the town appropriation request, which is 16.7%, or as you've rounded up, 17%. The other major factor is in the increase to our operating expenditures and budget is that we have increased our personnel budget by 25%. And if you're looking at the color-coded copy of the library budget, that is lines 18 through 22. And the reason for that is, we do have the standard wage increases. We're estimating a 3.5% COLA and 2.5% step that hasn't been decided yet and will be decided in the spring. But wanted to include that for all of our positions. You do see a part-time maintenance position that's moved into that. I mean, you don't see it broken out, but that came mostly from funds elsewhere in the budget so that we have someone on our staff to help address maintenance and snow removal concerns year-round. And our benefit increases were based on the same figures that Lynn shared earlier.
But we've added a line, line 21, for compensation adjustment of $75,000. And the reason for the addition of that line is that we are aware that the library wages are out of line with both the cost of living in this area and also with the level of work that they actually perform. And after seeing the results of the town's wage study, it called greater attention to the actual disparity that is in our library staff wages, particularly in our lower paid positions. And so the Library Board of Trustees has agreed to put a pot of money towards making those compensation adjustments in fiscal year 2025 so that they have time to look at it and make a determination about what process they will use to make those adjustments and make sure that our staff are paid fairly. So that is a priority for them, and this is outlined in the document that I just shared with you as well. So that is the largest area of increase. We did attempt to keep the rest of the budget mostly flat, except for areas where we knew we had, standard contract increases or increases of services. I'll note that our materials budget has stayed flat for the third year in a row, which actually means that we are not able to afford as many materials as we have been because the cost of materials are increasing and moving more and more towards digital, and our use is increasing again. So that is just the areas within our operating budget that I think have the greatest impact on that total amount that you see.
May I continue, Janet?
Sure.
So in the October 11th draft minutes of the library trustees, there was a debate about the $75,000, and $45,000 was also suggested, and there was a split vote of the trustees on that, and then there was a line in the draft minutes that said, let's put in the $75,000 and see if we need to cut it later. And I find that difficult given the total amount of money here. Again, the selectmen have no say in it, but I'm very concerned about the fact that the library is, for several reasons, asking for more appropriation from the town than any other function, and there's an example of $30,000 that it seems to me the library trustees might have not tried to put in the budget to begin with, given the split vote on the trustees.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I'd like to speak to that. $75,000 is the amount based on my initial analysis and calculations, based on our current library's wages and the pay grade levels which came out in the town's wage study. Further analysis is needed, but my approach is to say that if we are going to address this and we have an estimate that is based in some initial factual assessment, it's better to ask for what we need and reduce it later in the process if we determine that if the board looks at my numbers and takes a closer look, and as a group we work together and find that it isn't $75,000, it might be something less than that. And so I'm sorry that in the minutes that perhaps seemed to indicate that there was a lack of concern for the amount we were requesting. So in the budget, which I did present first to the board on October 11th, we have several committees that look at different aspects of our budget prior to it coming to the full board. And so we had a disagreement between two of our committees. One supported the $75,000 and another supported the $45,000. So in the committee minutes, you would see that recommendation. The budget I brought forth on October 11th included the $45,000 as a way to meet the board where they were saying, well, perhaps we could reduce this. And it came up during the meeting that my initial request was for $75,000, and it was one of the trustees that actually made a motion to amend that line back to the $75,000 I had originally presented. And so that is how that happened during the meeting.
So I guess maybe, Sherry, this is addressed to you as much as anything else. It'd be very helpful if the library trustees were sensitive to the disproportionate increases that are going on in this budget compared to the rest of the town. And that's all that can really be said. Same thing with the COLA, incidentally. I would hope that once that the library trustees and the selectmen would try to reach on a common COLA rather than having a different COLA for the library trustees. the selectmen haven't discussed that yet, but 3.5% strikes me as higher than probably the town's going to end up doing.
Thank you. And I will just say that, again, the approach we took this year was to estimate based on current projections where it might land, since the library budget does operate separately than over the rest of the town's budget. If we haven't set aside enough funds for the appropriate COLA increase, then we will not have enough funds, or we'll have to pull that and absorb that from somewhere else in our budget. And last year, the case was that the library board had actually planned for a 1.5% COLA, and then the town chose a 5.25% COLA, and the library board of trustees opted to follow the same as the rest of the town employees. And so that meant we had to absorb that from elsewhere in our budget, which we were able to absorb, but that may not always be the case.
Sure. I'm just thinking as you know, the process goes on here in the next several weeks with the budget committee and so on, if we can maybe agree on a common COLA rather than, I understand, thank you for doing what you did this year. My continuing observation about the desirability of more dialogue between the library trustees and the selectmen and the budget committee about what the year looks like, because at the end of the day, there's only one appropriation. One town meeting has to appropriate the money, and if we end up thinking that we can only afford 5% for the town and we're going to do 17% for the library, that's a big distinction. That's all I'm saying.
Crystal, I know that at some point, and this may have been before your time, there was talk about upgrading the kitchen. Was that done? Has that been done? Remodeling the kitchen in the library?
That has not been done, and so that is then speaking to the capital reserve fund that has continued to be put off because of other expenses and also the time we've had available. But as the library is currently in a strategic planning process, our facilities committee has been discussing looking at grouping some major projects together for interior renovation, because we are sensitive to the fact that the current library space may be better used for this point in time and the future to better serve the needs of the community. And so to group together interior renovations and projects such as that might be more advantageous for us to look at a larger project rather than do things piecemeal throughout the library. The other expenses that have come up for for looking towards fiscal year 2025 is that we are aware that our stone wall around the back of the property is damaged and in need of repair, and is potentially at risk on an abutter's property of falling into that property. And the decision is at this point, and the facilities committee is looking into quotes to determine whether it is more advantageous to replace the wall or to simply repair it, and what that cost might look like. So again, this is an area where we may have more accurate numbers later on in the process, but for right now, we've estimated based on what we think the replacement cost would be for that stone wall, and some of the other things that need to be done. So we certainly don't want to have the stone wall falling over into our neighbor's side.
Thank you.
Yes.
Phoebe, do you have questions? Are you going to ask?
Well, do I really have any? You can answer the question.
I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What amount?
Let's see.
For our size?
Let's say $40,000.
$40,000, okay. So if we had to remove $40,000 from our budget, it would, I would recommend to the Board of Trustees that come from the personnel budget. And the ramifications of that would be that if the board determines that we need to increase wages at the higher rate, we may need to reduce the number of FTEs that we have in order to pay the fair wage to staff, which would mean a reduction in services. And again, that is not something we know all of the details for yet. And so we don't know what those adjustments will be, but that is the risk, I guess, to cutting that area. Or not being able to raise those wages to what is a fair wage for New London. If I were to gain $40,000, I would put more towards the, our books budget. Again, that has been, books and materials, that has been flat, and we want to promote our digital resources more, but are in danger of going over budget in that area in the current year that we are in. And so it would be nice to be able to continue to supply the materials. We've had a very generous budget to be able to purchase things and make access to things that people want to see. And so that is something I would love to be able to continue for our community. And I would also consider adding to the repairs and maintenance area of the budget. We did pull some funds from that area for a position. There are lots of small things that do come up during the year, and so that is an area where we often can't easily predict how much fuel will we actually need during the winter months, how many smaller repair projects. It would be very nice to get caught up on the backlog of small projects that don't fall under the capital reserve budget. But right now we are addressing them as we're able to, and with what is causing the greatest issue for safety or well-being, so.
All right. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you do this, but have you reviewed the hours that the library is open? Do you feel that there are any you could cut back on to reduce staffing and that sort of thing?
There may be, and I think that's a conversation that the Board of Trustees has been interested in looking at over time. As I mentioned, we are in a strategic planning process currently, and that has never been done formally for the library. And just a quick plug that we have a community engagement survey out, and also some forums and focus groups coming up that we'd love to get input and participation in. But I think, you know, that once that is completed, we'll have a better idea of the needs of the community and what's most important and how we can address them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, anything else?
I'd like to talk a little bit about capital reserves, as long as Crystal and Sherry are here. But I think we're still talking about operating issues, aren't we?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want me to, John?
And
Go ahead.
I will stay for the remainder of the meeting, but Sherry, I think, would appreciate it.
Oh, okay, good. So the question that I have about I was on the CIP committee, so I'm working off of that sheet is when you talk about for this next year, for example, parking area, paving, curbing, and painting, do you coordinate with Bob Harrington and so on those projects? And are these numbers that he would agree to? Because it sounds to me like the parking area paving, for example, relatively small parking area you have, might be something that would just be a tag on to some other paving project that he's doing. Is that part of the process, or?
From what I've been advised, the paving and curbing would need to be done at the same time, because if they are not, then there can be issues with the leveling. So that is why they are grouped together. I would say in terms of working with the town, we're always open to working with the town on different projects, and especially something where the town is already perhaps doing paving, and we could benefit from that in some way and pay our share of that. So, you know, that is looking to fiscal year 2026. And so.
That's 2025 for the paving. No?
I don't have the CIP in front of me, but the CIP that I submitted, I believe, matched the capital reserve budget, which I provided in a year-by-year.
Again,
So
since we have no say over it, I'm just,
Yeah.
you made a theme here of sort of working with the rest of the town where it's possible. Another example is we're about to propose a roof project on the Academy building. Is there some way to make sure that we're using the same people and getting the same benefits from doing major roofing projects in town? That's just another example, because as you see, my theme is cooperation from the library across the town with wherever we can. But it's not our purview to challenge your particular decisions.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good?
I'm done.
BB?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. patriotic purposes, there's probably nothing,
We continue to look for somebody to spearhead patriotic purposes.
yeah.
Oh, do we buy some flags? Okay. We had Bob McMichael for many years.
Right.
He spearheaded that effort, so that's where the money was spent. We did buy some flags recently, but if we can find somebody who would like to spearhead that, I think having the money ready would be a good thing.
Okay, what about conservation?
I can give Bob Brown a call. I indicated to him that it would probably be after lunch, but you guys are so speedy today that,
Yeah.
so I could call Bob and,
We probably
After
should have
lunch?
him come, because
Yeah.
I'm going to question the 33% increase in the annual appropriation.
yep, okay, so we can call him, so after lunch, have him come in.
Okay, how about energy? Can we do that now?
Yeah, Energy Committee has not spent any of their budget. I put money in there as a placeholder, but I think they do their minutes on their own, so they haven't used it for that. I thought they were going to have some special events where they would use their appropriation, but they haven't done that yet, so.
And do we have enough money for trees and,
Yeah, we have the protective associations. I didn't see any increases. As we all know, the Lake Protective Associations,
yeah,
what they do, I didn't ask them in, but I think they're pretty well-known already. The Garden Club is one that has been in the budget before. Obviously, they do an amazing job all around town, in
Right.
particular the town office. Always looks awesome. And I can also ask Peter Nichols to come in if you have questions on housing. It's kind of, their budget's a continuation of their efforts last year, or this current year. And as Adam mentioned, last night, the Selectmen's meeting, they're awaiting a grant of over $100,000, so.
okay. Anybody have any questions about any of those things? No? Bill? Okay, so the only thing we haven't covered is conservation. Is that correct?
We'll have Bob come in after lunch, and then we can go through the nonprofits. I can read out the nonprofits to you if you want, or maybe you don't have any questions on them.
I didn't see anything I wanted to ask about them. Okay.
Okay, so after lunch, we'll do bonded debt, capital outlays, transfers to capital reserves. CIP, you may not have to talk about since it was presented last night, but you could. And I'll have Bob come in from Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Sound good?
Should we take a,
Very efficient in your time, people.
are we going to postpone for a little bit, recess for a little bit?
Yeah, we can recess this meeting for, what, until 1 o'clock, 12:30? 12:30? Okay.
Thanks, Will.